Hey guys, welcome to FOE Advanced. This is Bonfrey from L World, and today I'm taking a look at a friend's city in L World that is newer to the game, and he's in LMA. And I just wanted to kind of look around and share some thoughts that maybe will be of some benefit to him and possibly some of the others of you that are watching. So at this point, he's planning on moving out of LMA from what he's told me. And there's some considerations when you want to move out of LMA, especially if that's been a place where you've maybe camped a little bit or hung out for a bit as you've either gotten used to the game or just decided to dominate in a lower era like that. Um, I like what I'm seeing in terms of great buildings. He does have quite a number of great buildings in place, considering the newer age of the city. I like the LOA. I'm always a big fan of the LOA. When you have these core buildings that I think are very important, the LOA, the COA, the TRAS, super important. And you can have, I could have a whole discussion around why the TRAS is a big space saver and the best ways to use that. And if you haven't watched my video on efficient use of the TRAS, uh, definitely check that out because if you use it properly, you can save a lot of real estate in your town. And after all, this is a resource game, and it's always about the real estate um, efficiency. He's got a Chateau Frontenac underway, which is great for recurring quests. If you're not familiar with recurring quests, definitely look into that. I may do a video on those too. CDM, that's great. Inno, it's a little early in my opinion for an Inno. There are some pitfalls with the Inno that I'll probably go into on another video. But essentially, if you start leveling this sucker pretty quick, it adds a lot of population, which will sneak up on you if you're not keeping up with your happiness percentage. So you want to look at that with your TRAS. So make sure if you're leveling up your Inno, make sure you're moving your TRAS up with it. Now, the Inno has the longest sweet spot of any GB in the game, which is handy and cool, but just something to watch out for. In terms of an FP producing building that gives you, excess and ridiculous amounts of happiness, of population, it's better in my opinion than a cape. Capes have a pretty long ROI. Personally, at this point, I would probably delete the cape this early in the game. But it's already been built. I just wouldn't pump a lot of resources into this yet. It's at level 3. I would say to take it to 10 and let it sit there a while because it's just an FP bearing building, and it takes like I don't know. There's calculators that'll show you it takes like 12 to 24 months to get ROI on that investment. So that's something to watch out for. I like the bot rots. These are an awesome building to buff your attack. There's a lot of good things in general here. I do notice two rogue dens. Now you don't need two rogue dens if you've got a TRAS because your TRAS is going to if you have a rogue den in your city, it's going to produce rogues at random. And then if you have any other military unit buildings, it's gonna randomize those as well. So in this case, this player has the option to build some additional attached rogue units by using the secondary rogue den, or I've seen some cities that have even 4, 5, or 6 of these in them. And yeah, that's going to give you more attached rogues, but it takes up a lot of space over time. And you should be using your TRAS to generate those units for the most part. What I'll do sometimes is put the rogued in. Even I might even put my single rogued in storage just to really focus the output of my TRAS into a certain unit that I want to build. Like, in this case, there's a cannon camp over here. So, if you stored the rogue dens and just had the cannon camp, then at the next collection of the TRAS, you're only going to get cannons. I'm seeing some tack towers. These, in my opinion, are kind of a waste of space. Um, if you watch any of my videos, you know I put no emphasis on city defense because if someone wants to break your city defense, they're going to get through it. Any player that is, you know, taking the time to build up a powerful military and attack you and possibly plunder you, they're going to get through your defense no matter what. So I would personally de-emphasize. I would delete all tack towers. Whenever I get tack towers or ritual flames or things that buff city defense, I pretty much just sell them in the AD in the antique dealer. So that's just, again, this is just my personal opinion. This is not gospel. This is not the way, you know, best practices or whatever. These are just things I've learned over time playing in many worlds, many different accounts, diamond farms, etc. The Shrine of Knowledge, the SOKs here. I have a love-hate relationship with these things because they need to be motivated or polished or whatever in order to put out the forge point. And you know, if you get a ton of these going, you may not always find that they're motivated, and they are just, you know, it's one forge point, right? I mean, it does give you some coins, which is handy. As you age up, it's just this is one of those things that I'll probably do another video on, like when you start to move into kind of pro status, like which buildings you want to shed. Um, but you know, it's a little early in this in for this city. I would say, you know, keep the SOKs. I like the fact that there's a good amount of goods buildings here. Obviously, this player is making enough goods he can, you know, trade up or down or whatever, emphasizing, you know, what he can build, and that's fine. The Zeus always a plus. So right now, what I would say to this player is before you build any more GBs, because you got a pretty nice round selection of GBs, especially being an LMA. I would take, you know, the LOA to 10, obviously take everything to 10, you know, the Terracotta Army, because that's a waste of space until you get this thing to at least 10, because then you're getting 30% on your on both sides on your attack, you know, rating and your attack buff and your defense while attacking. That's 30% when you get that to 10. The Chateau Frontenac, I would try to get this up to like 15 or 20 pretty soon for the recurring quest benefits. The CDM definitely to 10. The TOR, if you're actively involved in GE, get that TOR up to like 15 if you can, at least 10 for sure, because you're going to start seeing some real advantages from that. Again, I would probably ditch all the ritual flames. They're just kind of lame in terms of city defense, take up space. Obviously, your Sentinel Tower is a whole different story. You want as many of those as you can get, and if you're, you know, doing the event and the Sentinel Tower comes up as a possible win on the wheel, I would recommend doing that, just because we're in that event right now as I'm recording this. I'd be suspect of keeping the Sacred Skywatches too long, even though, you know, you have them. They're okay for what they do. They pop out some goods and whatnot, but they're just not a real good use of space in the long run. So something to keep an eye on there. And otherwise, I like, you know, the overall layout of this town is very efficient. Not too many roads. I like that there's rows of things. I'm probably going to do a video on the best recommendations, like best practices for building a city to be very efficient. And it's something that a lot of people, a lot of players put off. You know, you have the city designer, the editing feature. I would really encourage diving in and messing around with that because as you add buildings, whether event buildings or anything else, you know, that you just kind of end up sticking things in your city and it makes it really inefficient. So in general, I like the way this is laid out because this road, there's a road along the back here that runs, you know, from the city hall, town hall in the corner all the way down to that arc. And I like that, you know, that's just real laid out cleanly for the most part. There is a little bit of a bump with the Ferris wheel, but what I like is that I generally make my rows either 6 wide or 7 wide because some of the buildings, at least as you get to higher eras, like that's what I do in Space Age Venus because there's a lot of 7 wide buildings, but that wouldn't be an issue in lower eras like this. So I would mostly look at doing 6 wide, or maybe one lane that's 8 wide. That way you can get two 4x4 buildings next to each other as you go down a row, etc. But the 6 wide between lanes is a really good thing to do. And of course, putting your GBs all around the edge like this is primo, the way to go. I would delete the Tower of Babel in this city. Once you start generating goods and you really start rolling, the TOB, in my opinion, is kind of either you should have a level 100 TOB or just shine it. Just get rid of it because it's just not going to be that good of a long run use of space. I like the SMB. It's a huge beastly building, but it does put out your goods. Again, further justification for deleting the TOB. And the buff on coin percentage is a real plus, especially if you want to buy forge points on going into the game. With the purchase button up here, or if you're doing a later, there's some recurring quests. There's the Unbirthday quest, also known as the UBQ, a magical recurring quest that you need lots of supplies and lots of coins for. But you can just hammer that, quest over and over again if you have enough goods and coins, and it can be a real plus. So I would be paying attention to adding buildings that can buff your supply percentage when you collect. So like in your city hall, when you go to click on that, like I'll go to mine. If you look here, sorry, town hall, I was called city hall. Um, Look at your boost overview. Like in my case, I've really focused on buffing my coin and supply productions. That way, when I go to my recurring quests, and I pull up, you have different quests in different eras, obviously. So in SAV, I've got different stuff going on, but there's a there's a quest, where you can spend certain resources and things like that in order to trigger the quest. But it's different for me than maybe other eras. I don't have the unbirthday the UBQ, unfortunately. You lose that. I think it's when you go into Sob. I think you lose it. I can't remember for sure, but up until that point, you have a lot of options. So I have like 13 different quests that I can mess with here, and some of them are resource driven. So it's like pay goods, and recruit units, things like that. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off track on that, but back to this player. He's off to a good start. Now let's talk about real quick what's next um, after LMA, because you've got two eras in front of you that, in my opinion, I just hate. They just suck, in my opinion, and that is purely my opinion. Okay, I mean, I've played, like I said, I've played a number of accounts, and I'm going to go to the research tree here real quick and um, show you. So, say you're in LMA, right, and you've gotten through this tech tree. Well, now you're going into CA. Now you will have some cool troops. The heavy troop in Colonial is pretty okay. It's all right. And I mean, the biggest benefit of moving up, in my opinion, is you get land tiles, right? And you need those land tiles. And um, you get that benefit of growth. But in terms of the troops, I'm not, the fighting units, I'm not that big of a fan. Probably the field artillery is one of the best, and you don't get that until the end. But lining up 8 of those field guns with no rogues just like hammers the crap out of most opponents, because you don't have flying troops in these early eras, so you don't have to worry. The only thing that you got to worry about with field artillery in auto battling is fast movers like horses. So if you're going up against horses more than 3, the 8 gun lineup, you're gonna lose some. But that's just a side note for CA. You also can get dragoons; they're okay. I mean, I like the fast troops mainly for those guild encounters where you run into a lot of cannons on the opposition, because the fast troops will go and take care of them really quick. You got a tobacco plantation, which is one of my more favorite buildings, and because it's 900 an hour as a 4x4, that's a pretty rad building. In fact, that building I tend to keep into industrial age because of its efficiency and its output. Let's see, exploration. Okay, Rangers. Rangers are pretty okay as a light unit goes. I like the Rangers. They're pretty cool. But anyway, in general, colonial age, I just wanted to get out of it. In hindsight, I didn't really like it that much. I liked the land tiles, moved on. I would recommend, honestly, just rocketing through colonial and industrial. Do not camp in these ages. My opinion. I just don't like the fighting that much, and the quicker you get through them, the better. Obviously, if you're not sure what resources you're going to need, this if you look to the upper left of the screen, I'm on an iPad, so you can't see my pointer, but if you look at the upper left, there's this bar graph thing. I'm going to press that, and this shows you your research cost per era, right? So in my case, I'm already in SAV, so it's not going to show the research cost of eras I've already explored. But if you were up coming up into CA and you click that bar, it would tell you all of the forge points and every good you're going to need to do all the research to get through that era as fast as you can. So set yourself up for trades. See if there's guild members or friends that will help you with fast unfair trades. Just like, hey, I'm trying to get through CA. If you decide you want to do that, and I'm trying to blow through industrial, whatever you decide, try to get those goods on hand in advance. That way, as you collect your FP every day, you can just pump it into the research and just get out of that age as quick as you can. Let's say that you set a goal of landing in PE, which is my personal recommendation. What's after LMA? PE. PE is where you want to go and kind of chill for a bit. If you have those renovation kits, if you have those one-up kits for your special buildings, um, I would not burn those in CA and industrial if your target is, for example, PE. You get into PE, there's some really great troops, in my opinion, for auto battling. It's the track vehicles. You get tanks, and they're totally rad with rogues. And I'm not into the scoped rifles at all. I do like the champion in this era is actually really strong. It's a fast troop, so it like takes the place of the horse, if you will. And the champion in combination with tanks is a really, really good setup. Like maybe a couple champions, a few tanks, and the rest rogues, something like that. The percussion fuse, again, rapid fire cannon. You can do the 8 cannon lineup on those. It's totally great. I liked PE for auto battling quite a bit. And it was just a good enough era. It's a good looking era for me personally. I liked the look, and it just seemed to make sense to just kind of chill there for a bit, because after PE, you got these other two eras that I'm also not totally into in terms of like the military. Modern era, postmodern. There's a couple highlights in these areas, but I know this video isn't really about aging up, so I'll probably do another video. I'll shut up for now about moving through eras. But in terms of that city, I think Two Spart is really for the most part on the right track. But if you look at the list of his GBs, he's got some opportunity here to really bump up all these to at least 10. I'd recommend before going to the next build. He was mentioning to me he's interested in a Himeji Castle. I like the Himeji Castle, but I also hate it. I mean, really, I hate it because it's an extreme. There's two problems with it. It's an extremely expensive GB to level up in terms of forge points. It's a high era building. The higher era the buildings are, the more expensive they are to age up. The Terracotta Army is a VF building. And so is the Meiji. And for what you pump into the Himeji for leveling it, I'll tell you, you don't plan on a lot of hits on 200 FP awards and things like that. It's gonna kind of put out little amounts of things here and there. The big plus though of the Himeji is the amount of supplies it gives you. And if you're planning on doing the recurring unbirthday quest like Infinity, you want a Himeji Castle. I mean, because it just puts out so many freaking supplies. And once you get, to that point where also there's event quests and it says, hey, collect 2 million supplies. You're not really straining at that point because you can just pop your HC. So I'm not saying don't build it. I'm just saying there's other buildings that are fundamentally important before you go there. So I would say, sure, build an HC soon, but get these all to 10. And then I would also really, really look at building an AO if you're a fighter. Arctic Orangery is such a great building because it's not a chance by number of fights building. So, for example, the Kraken. If you look at the Kraken, in my case, I've spent a billion FPs on this thing. It's a level 75. I've got 19 charges. So, yes, I can get a 97.34% hit on the effectiveness on the special ability of this building, which is basically this tentacle comes up out of the ground and just sucks the enemy unit down into the ground. It's pretty cool to watch if you actually manually fight, but I usually auto battle. But it's super sweet when that thing comes up and just vaporizes the enemy. But I have 19 battles at that, and then this building has to recharge in 24 hours. So only first 19 battles I make after I recharge this building, I'm going to get that potential benefit. Whereas with the AO, it is an expensive building, but I have mine up to almost 100, and I freaking love this building because I get a 29.64% chance at this level of giving a critical hit to an enemy unit every time I fight forever. So it does not cut off at 10 battles or 20 battles or whatever. And plus, it gives me FP. So I'm a huge proponent of any chance building that never runs out of tries. But unfortunately, your Himeji runs out, your Kraken runs out, your Space Carrier runs out. The Blue Galaxy runs out, even though of all the chance buildings, I freaking love the Blue Galaxy. This thing hits like crazy. Even if you can get one up to like level 10 or 12, you will get you'll get 2x bonuses like big time. So like in this case, I can do 14 collections. When I'm ready to collect my city, I get a 66% chance at those first 14 collections hitting 2x. But I'm at level 72. But even if your VG's down at 10 or 12, it's still going to hit pretty well. I feel like it hits way better than the HC as a percent chance hit building. So that's just a little bit of commentary on that. Um, I was going to revisit Two Sparts Town just before I wrap this video, just to see if I missed anything. I do like I said, like the road layouts. Everything's great there. Um, and when redesigning this city, I would for sure um, move this SOH way up over to the corner where this arc is, over way up to the left, or to the right. Put it on the end, and that way you only have to have a road servicing just the top of this line, this grid, if you will, whatever this is, because all your road to victories, those don't need a road powering them. So it's you just don't need to have a road following that, paralleling it the whole way. If you get what I mean on that. So it's just a way to use roads more efficiently. But anyway, I've probably droned on long enough for this one. I hope this has been a help, not only to Two Spart, but also whoever else is in LMA and looking at layouts and other little pieces of strategy. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and comment. Tell me, what you want to hear. Give me questions.